Hey, John here. So I got this EB5000 Honda generator, and it's a no start. Chances are it's probably the carburetor. We're going to go ahead and take it apart and see if we can clean this one Honda. If this was a Briggs engine or maybe a Kohler or something, I would just get a new carburetor and just slap a new carburetor on. That is, if it's the carburetor, I'm pretty sure it is. We're going to do a spark test just to make sure they're sparked, but I don't know how much a Honda carburetor is. They might be a little more, so if this is cleanable, I'll clean it. But let's just see if it's the carburetor first. It's a no start. You can pull all day long, it won't start. Let me put a spark tester on there, see if it's got spark, and we'll move right to the fuel, which is probably what it is. I'm sure it's got spark. I'm not sure, but chances are it's just fuel, but we got to check anyways because this is easy to do. If it's got spark, I am just definitely going right to the fuel. See, on. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's got spark. Let's go right to the carburetor. Alright, so I'm just going to take this filter off and see if we can just get it to bump over with just fuel. So it's right behind here. So we want it unchoked. See if we can get a straw in there. And we'll choke it. If this wants to bump over now, then it's probably just dirty carburetor. That's what I suspected. So let's go ahead and take this air filter off and get this carburetor off. See what kind of mess it is. Probably just the old usual gelled up deal. We'll go ahead and clean it up, and we'll also price the carburetor. Depends on how bad it is. Let's just take a look. So most likely it's just going to be this 8 and a 10. Take off this. Right behind here, there's a bolt holding this onto a bracket. There's a gasket behind here, so if it looks like it's going to stick and tear, you got to kind of get in there with something to pry or loose. This one looks like it's going to come off. And there's this little clip here. It's just on a rubber grommet. This choke mechanism, it should just be able to lay it to the side here, because it's just this little pin here that operates this choke. There we go. So now we got the fuel on. The fuel is shut off, so it doesn't matter where you take it off from. Either way. Alright, so before we pull this carb off, here's a electrical connection. Yeah, got two connectors, can't really goof that up. That's zip tied. Alright, so now all we gotta do is remember where these springs are, right? The little one in a little hole. That's self-explanatory. Get the little one out, and then we can put this choke all the way forward. Put the choke or the throttle all the way forward, and just go ahead and bend this rod just a hair back, so it gets in the groove, so you can pull it straight out. So you could take it directly off. I didn't think there was going to be enough room, but there is. Directly off, and then just spin it sideways, pull her out. Easy peasy. Where's the other gasket? Oh, I'm going to save the gaskets, obviously. Alright, let's go look at it. Alright, so I got the carburetor upside down because I want to get the solenoid off, but these Phillips screwdrivers sometimes are problematic, and if they don't want to move, I wouldn't recommend stripping them. Usually this is a 10 or 11, but in this case Honda put a 14-inch or a 14 millimeter bolt on there. Some gas is going to pour out of here. I don't think it's quite empty, but I'm going to see what this thing looks like. I'm going to try to save this gasket on the bowl here because I don't have a Honda gasket set, and we're going to try to reuse this. I'm also going to price this carburetor just to see how much this thing is, and I also want to orientate this or remember where this was, because you could put this, as you see, it just moved, so it was basically you know, lined up with here, but there's a, well, let's take it apart and see what happens in here. I'm sure this is going to be all clogged up too. Yeah, see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but these little tiny holes in the side of this, all this green crappy stuff, we're going to have to clean all that crap up, and I can already tell you that this is going to be crappy inside. And the high-speed jet is going to be crappy. So it looks like that seal doesn't even come out of there. I mean, I'd have to literally pick it out, so we're going to leave that in there. And the bottom of this, yeah, there's green like varnish type. It smells horrible. So this is all that's going on. So we're going to go ahead and clean that up. And we're going to take this high-speed jet out, clean everything up. Take this this pin out. You know, we've done this 100 times. Make sure you don't lose your needle. That actually doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty clean. But like I said, we're going to go ahead and clean everything anyways. Yeah, this high-speed jet is totally, I can't even see the slot for the screw. So that's all that's going on here. So I'll show you what I'm going to do to clean this up, and this thing will start right up. But there's some numbers. We are going to look this up just to see. A thin little flathead. Yeah, I can't even feel the groove. Wow. I gotta get a thinner one. Can't really see in there neither. Oh, there it is. This is this. Wow, thing was pretty crunchy. Maybe it was just varnish crunching off. So that thing's pretty seized in there. Once we strip this slot out, she's staying in there. Ain't looking good for the home team, so we might have to get a new carburetor anyways, because I can see in there it's just crud. No matter what screwdriver I use, and I know which one would do the trick. This one usually, but yeah, see, we're stripped out basically. Yeah, I just know from experience, if you can't get this out and clean that whole high-speed needle, this thing it's not going to work right. She's a goner. It's just brass, so you got one little crack at it, and unfortunately we couldn't get it out. So let's go price the carburetor. So I've got the new carburetor in. Let's see. We might have to use some parts, like maybe some of this stuff off the old one. I don't know, I haven't looked yet, but actually these, hopefully everything's the same. We've got some new gaskets. Oh, okay. Looks like a fuel line or something. Fuel line. I think we're in business. I don't know, it's looking the same. The original, this thing, so if you bought this new, you know, from Japan, this is like $200 carburetor. It says from Japan. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Oh wow, that's bizarre. So this costs $20 on Amazon, this new one, and I thought for sure it would come straight out of Wuhan, China for sure. But it's saying, okay, designed in Japan. It doesn't say made in Japan, but it does have a Japan logo on it, so I like that. But anyways, it is the exact same carburetor. Everything's the same. Nothing's different. So, before we go bolt it up, let's go ahead and put this this line on the exact same way, because this here fits into you know, that metal piece. I don't know where it's supposed to be, but we'll use the new fuel line. Well, so there is a small discrepancy. So this is the original carburetor, and you can see this gasket here lines up, you know, where the holes, everything's good. And this is the new gasket, which is nowhere close to it. But if, and I guess we can get a, let me see something. See, this gasket will work for, the old gasket will work for the new one on this side, because it's the same thing. But this gasket is different. So either they sent the wrong one, or, see it does line up there, or they're just, this hole here is not important, not used. Neither is this one apparently. So on this one is covered with this gasket, but they do have this one open, and I looked in there, it looks like a dead end, so perhaps you just don't need it, but that's the gasket that came with it. This gasket's in good shape, so I'll probably just use this just for general purpose, or just for ease of mind, just in case. And the other side is different. The hole is actually smaller, so there is a discrepancy. So we can't use the, so this is the old, where is it? The old gasket here for the old one. And what they're doing here is, you see this hole here, the hole is actually over here, but because it's concave, this is a airway, but as you can see here, you know, it comes right out. So this is just for sucking air part of it. So their hole is here, and it's using this whole cavity, perhaps for air. Lines up there, but you see the circle is perfect, and this circle is too big. So using this gasket over here, it's just too, well, let's see, there's the new one. Yeah, you can see that the hole is on the new carburetor is bigger. The problem is, so we go like this is the old one, and moving this over here we can't do, because number one, this hole over here is now plugged. There's no, the avenue is over here. See how this one is the avenue, the air chamber? The slot goes way over here. It doesn't do that on this one. So we can't use this gasket. So the way they got it is like so, which is fine, because that hole lines up right above this hole, still has the air chamber. So the new gasket for the new carburetor will be used on this side, but I'm going to use the old gasket for the other side, just because the way it fits perfect, just like the old one. Alright, so we do have a discrepancy, and I don't know if it's going to matter, but I'll point out to what's going on here. Alright, so this plastic intake manifold, you see it's got a groove here, and it allows, you know, some air to go in there. It's the original carburetor, so with the original gasket, which would go like this, right, and that hole lines up with that groove on the inside, and then the original carburetor, which also has this air chamber, you know, like a indent. So that lines up, and that's good, right? So you could see how that operates, and everything lines up, you know, the way it should, right? Poof. So the new one, unfortunately, the throats are bigger. As you can see, the throat on a new one is much bigger than the old one. The old one over here, the diameter here. So using a new gasket, you can see here, okay, I understand, that works, lines up with a hole, everything's good. However, when you take it over this plastic intake, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet, I'm going to use the new gasket with a new carburetor. I'll tell you why in a second. But if we bolt this up like this, as you can see here, this hole, not only does it not hit that in the groove, it's just hitting flat plastic, so it literally has nothing, you know, up against nothing. But you can see how this, you know, it's not perfectly center, and this ridge, now this air chamber is up here. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to put this on because this is so easy to get on and off. If this thing doesn't run right, then I'm going to come up with a different plan. So then you would put this on next. right? And so we're going to use the old one. Just because it fits just exactly the same as this one. And this is the new gasket, which did not fit exactly the same. I guess it would be like this. You can see how it's different, right? This hole's kind of covered, partially covered. So again, I don't know if they sent the wrong gaskets, but we're going to use the original gasket on this one and a new gasket on that one. If this thing doesn't run right, then we're going to have to come up with another plan. So let's get this thing back together. Put this choke in there. This will go on next. Now I'm going to elect not to put I'm not going to put this mechanism on yet. Just going to choke this down with the nuts, just to see if this thing can get running the way it should be. If it doesn't run the way it should be, then we're going to have to change that gasket or come up with another plan. And I do have gasket material I can make. I can make a gasket. That's always an option. But for right now, let's just test it this way. Alright, so I got to tighten them up. This hose goes to, and it's a little long, but for right now, we're just going to put it on the gas valve. And this is the automatic choke. Okay, here, and this is just a breather, so we're going to leave that. So let's see if this choke works. Yep. Alright, so we'll turn the gas on. Oop, we got to do our electrical connection. Let's connect that right quick. I'll do this. I'm just setting it up right now just to make sure this thing is working properly. So if this thing does start up and run as it should, just remember, so this carburetor, it's for an EB5000 and two other things. So maybe they tooled it to accept, you know, the two other manifolds, and that's why things are a little bit wonky, but it might still work. Alright. Everything's tightened down. Let's give her on, start. I can see gas. Yep, so it is not running right. It won't run wide open, so maybe that gasket is an issue. So this is easy to do. Why don't we swap the gasket and see if it runs correctly with the original gasket, and then if it doesn't run right, then we'll have to do something else. So let's do that first. Alright, everything looks appropriate. Let's choke it. I don't think we need to. Put it back on auto. Right? Let's see. Auto. Let's try this again. Alright, so it just kicked down by itself. Let's see if this works. Stalled. Let's try to start it on off. See what that does. Oop. Choke it again. Okay, well this time it didn't stall on its own, so it is running a little better. So now I want to do, I gotta think about this. Well, I guess on second thought, let me try something else first. I'm going to go ahead and put the air filter mechanism on, because I remember messing around with this outboard motor once. It wouldn't run right unless you put the snorkel on there. So let me put this this air filter all back together. Okay, just to fill you in, so where I'm at with this is, so I put this filter on, put everything back together, and it did run better. And there's a, I'll show you in a sec, over here. There's an idle air mix, fuel air mix, you know, adjustment. So I was monkeying with that, because usually if you sit this all the way down to its seats and back it off 1.5 turns, that's generally where we need to be, and that's what I did. And then I tweaked it from there with very minimum turns. You just turn it just to crack it, I don't know, a little bit, and see how the idle responds. Give it a while and see how it responds. And so I'm thinking it's going to work fine. And I did lube this this choke mechanism up. So I put the original gasket on, or not the original, the gasket that came with the new carburetor. Put them on. I did not use this gasket here, right behind this plate, because this gasket covers this hole, and the original gasket does not. So I'm not going to use this one, but I did use the one that came with the carburetor on the inside towards the intake. So this is an experiment here to see if this works, and I do have a heat gun for a load for the you know, to take it from auto to, it's supposed to do it by itself. This filter probably could be cleaned, but I'm just going to run it right now as is. So I tightened these 2 bolts down, and the one on the reverse side of here. So this thing is solid, and then we can put this on. All right, so everything's sealed. Let's see if this thing, so I will choke it. Turn it on. Alright, so it's running right now on auto. We got the thing on auto, right? Let's see. Turn this thing on. It's 1500 watts, this heat gun. Alright, so I think I've got this thing licked. So you know how engines have, they need the air-fuel mix to be exactly correct to have an engine run. So I've been monkeying with this thing for about an hour now. I think I've got the problem solved. So the carburetor, alright, so this machine always did hunt a little. Yeah, it surged. The RPMs went up and down, you know, when it was running. Under a load, it seemed to get a little better. And over time, the longer it ran, it seemed to smooth out. And that was before I needed a new carburetor. So it always did do a little hunting, a little surging. So putting a new carburetor on there, we messed with the gaskets a few times, and it was hunting more than it used to. But still, it was running, and it's able to stay running, and it produces electricity, which is the, you know, the important part, because this is a generator and it's only used when the power goes out. So it will do the job currently as it is. But I wanted to smooth that hunting out, and like I said, with the air fuel mixture, we went around and I tried with the you know, the idle mix down here. I tweaked it every, you know, which way, and right about there is, you know, where I'm at as far as what I'm going to show you to get this thing running correctly. Now this is, you know, we learned that this carburetor is not exact measurements. The throat was bigger, the gaskets didn't line up, so there's a lot of things going on here with the avenues, with the channels, all this air, you know, too much air, too little air, too, you know, for the fuel air mix. So how I'm going to remedy it to get this thing perfect is messing with the air filter, because I can't mess with the choke. I can't mess with the, I already tried messing with the idle adjust. can't get it perfect. This is the only way I can get it perfect, and I'll show you what I did to get it perfect. So I've got the old Gorilla Tape, and this is what I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to starve this thing a little bit, not all of it. So this is the the entire intake. I'm going to starve half of it. And to get rid of this hunting surging problem, this is what I found that was how I fixed it. So let's start this up. I'll show you. It'll run for a second. I choked it. So it just conks out by itself, right? Because the air fuel is sucking too much air at this point. It's getting way too much air. So let's choke it again, and I'll show you what's going to happen when you starve it for a little bit of air. Now this is a foam thing. We're going to starve it for a little bit of air. Once it starts dying, you'll see it comes back to life. I don't know if you can hear that, but the RPM's picked up a little bit. So it'll run like this, no problem. And then when we put this on there, it actually seals it, you know, it's got clips, and it'll run actually better. That's how I solved the problem. It's just this little bit of Gorilla Tape here. I taped half of this off, and watch how good this thing runs. It'll run, it'll idle, it'll step up with a load on it, it'll act like normal. I'm just pointing this out. I mean, you know, the surging was bothering me. That's all. So this is how I fixed it. Let me just put this on here. The carburetor's not exactly the same. The only way I can adjust the air is by restricting the flow, and that's ultimately what made this thing run. Let me start it up now. This is on auto still, and I still have my heat gun plugged in, 1500 watts. So when we turn it on, it's going to kick up. It's going to run smooth. Trust me. So that's low idle on auto mode. If we turn this on, it's going to kick it up to high. See how it's no surging? Goes back down to low idle. It's the only way I can tweak this to have it running properly. You know, again, it used to surge a little bit. Now it doesn't surge at all. Just restricting the flow. So right now that's normal. We'll kick it up again. Anyways, it's running better than it did before, even with the old carburetor. It's the only way I can adjust the carburetor because it's a $20 carburetor. So if you want to spend the $200 on an original piece of equipment with the way it was originally, I'm sure it'll run fine. You know, the way the carburetor is designed. But buying a knockoff carburetor, you saw that the hole on the towards the intake, towards the plastic intake, was way bigger. No matter what gasket you used, no matter what configuration, we couldn't get those air slots, the cavities, to line up. No matter what we did, we did poke a hole in the original one, and it did help, and it stayed running, but it still surged. This is the only way I could get it to not surge and run correctly. And I know this is only 1500 watts, but because it runs good on this, I'm sure it'll run, you know, lights or whatever you're going to do with a little generator like this. I mean, it's a 5,000 watt generator, so I don't know how many, you know, literally how many watts you can put through it, but this is a pretty good load for testing this situation. Again, it's from 1997, it's 2022. This thing, it's been around the block, but it still produces electricity. It's a Honda, it's still running. So why bother, you know, getting a new machine when this thing's still running, where we can just restrict the airflow and this thing's running like a top again. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.